time for a Drum Talk TV Music Industry News Desk report.
Strap yourself in for more prohibited batteries not included, not available in State of Shock.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Drum Talk TV News Desk report broadcasting live today, January 23rd, 2026. And we got some interesting news items today. One of them being a Rush Grace Under Pressure box set, Poison touring status, like what's up with that? And we even have a Q&A coming up with Poison drummer Ricky Rocket on Wednesday the 28th. And a little bit of a Phil Collins update, among other things. But welcome, everyone. I'm Steven. This is Shiley. Shiley, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, it's really cold up here in Wisconsin today, so trying to stay warm and survive the sub-zero temps. But how are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing all right. Like, it's cold here, but maybe not as cold over there. So, you know, it's California. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's warm. But yeah, we're beginning a little bit differently this time around, aren't we, Shiley?
Yes, we are. Before we jump into our regularly scheduled programming, we did want to share a quick update about Phil Collins, singer and drummer known for playing in Genesis. This week, Entertainment Weekly reported that Collins recently revealed that he is under 24-hour care in an interview on BBC's Eras podcast. He is dealing with complications from his spinal injury in 2007, which damaged vertebrae in his upper neck and caused lasting nerve damage. When asked if he's come to terms with being unable to play music because of his health issues, he said, quote, "You know, I have a 24-hour live-in nurse to make sure I take my medication as I should do. I've had challenges with my knee. I had everything that could go wrong with me, did go wrong with me," unquote. He also shared when he was touring, he drank too much, which led to further health issues with his kidneys. Since then, he has been on a sobriety journey for the last 2 years. He said, quote, "It's just been a difficult, interesting, frustrating last few years, but it's all right now," unquote. Collins will be celebrating his 75th birthday on January 30th. So, you know, happy early birthday to him. And this is a huge update. We wanted to put it up here at the front of the show. Lots of misinformation can go around, and we just wanted to kind of jump ahead of that and let you know what we had heard from this interview that he did.
Yeah, definitely. There have been various posts over the last few months, so it's good to like have this up-to-date information, straight, you know, his own words. But now we get back to how we would normally do this.
Now it's time for
All right, so my icebreaker for you, Shiley, and for anyone who might be viewing this either live or after the fact, is what's the most you're willing to pay to get a box set or go to a concert? Like, how much it feels like too much?
Oh, that's a great question. Being a Gen Zer, I don't really have the means to play CDs or vinyls or things like that. And so I, wouldn't really buy a box set, I don't think. But in terms of going to concerts, I don't go to a lot of concerts. I want to start going to more. But I think I paid about $250 or so for to go to see Fall Out Boy a couple of years ago. And that's, of course, my favorite band ever. Anyone who's watched this before knows that. So that was kind of a little bit on the higher end, but also not quite as high as I was expecting for a band of their caliber. So I would say maybe upwards of $300 possibly to go to a concert. But, I would always be looking for those cheap concert tickets. How about you, Steven?
Yeah, I find that for the concerts that I go to, the ones that have been like the bigger profile ones, I tend to spend no more than, like, I'd be willing to spend a little more than 100 at most, but beyond that, like 200, 300, I've never really done that. But I know that there's, maybe even bigger profile artists like, I don't know, Coldplay, or I know the Rush tickets are, from what I hear, kind of pricey for their upcoming tour. But yeah, I kind of tend to keep it around 100 or below. And for box sets, kind of similar, might go to 120 or no higher than 150, depending on what it is. Like, I'm kind of selective with what box sets I get, because these days with all the anniversaries, there are just so many of them, you know?
Yeah, certainly.
All right, so moving
It's time
on.
for This Day in Music History. One out the whole week because we'd be here forever.
All right, on this day, January 23rd in 2024, Max Martin broke Beatles producer George Martin's record for the most number one hits as a producer when Yes and by Ariana Grande became his 24th chart-topping production. His first was Baby One More Time by Britney Spears in 1999. This is a huge deal. The Beatles producer now being beat out by someone else with coincidentally the same last name. I'm not sure if they're related or not. But yeah, I mean, we're getting far enough out now from when Beatles were regularly making music that these records, I think, are going to start being broken a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, for sure. And in 2006, wow, that was 20 years ago now, Arctic Monkeys released their debut album, Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not. The album received critical acclaim from critics and was named the best album of 2006 by Time magazine. It also got the Brit Award for Best British Album, won the 2007 Mercury Prize, and received a Grammy Award nomination for Best Alternative Music Album. Now, I haven't really done a deep dive on Arctic Monkeys, but the hits of theirs that I've heard here and there have been pretty good. So maybe this is something I need to listen to later today.
Yeah, I have definitely heard a lot of Arctic Monkeys' bigger songs and hits. I actually, when I was writing this, I went and shuffled this album and just played through it while I wrote. And it's actually really good. And I want to go back and listen to it again and give it a closer listen. So that's very exciting. Can't believe it's been 20 years. And in 2005, former Happy Mondays dancer Bez won the £50,000 Celebrity Big Brother prize after gaining 54% of the final viewer vote. The Manchester pop legend became the sixth member of the indie dance band in the late 1980s after playing maracas with them. Celebrity Big Brother is one of those shows that I've never really watched. I've seen some of, but it's a really big deal. And obviously, Bez was a very popular contestant.
Yeah, I think I've only seen like Big Brother within the show extras. So it was like watching it through the lens of a show within that show, which I guess is kind of weird. Seemed interesting. But taking it back to the 90s, 1991, John Sebastian, owner and general manager of KLSK FM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, played Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven for 24 hours straight to inaugurate a format change to classic rock. This caused some panic among listeners, and police arrived on the scene twice. Once after a listener reported that the DJ had apparently suffered a heart attack. The second police response was due to suspicion that the radio station had been taken hostage by terrorists, as it was 8 days into the Gulf War. That is really fascinating, and weirdly, it reminds me of how, I don't know if they still do this, but on the TBS channel, whenever it's Christmas, they'll play that movie A Christmas Story for like 24 hours straight. I don't know why they do it, like their other Christmas movies, but yeah, that's such a strange thing to have happen.
Yeah, and that's actually really interesting because this is not the first time this year even that we've reported about a radio station doing Stairway to heaven for 24 hours. There was a station in Florida that did that, a couple weeks ago in January. I don't remember the year off the top of my head, but it's apparently a very popular way to inaugurate sort of classic rock or Led Zeppelin formats, at least back then. And again, really interesting that there was some panic about what was going on at the radio station just because they were playing the same song over and over. All right, going back to 1990, David Bowie announced his forthcoming Sound and Vision World Tour, during which he would invite each local audience to decide on a greatest hits running order, organized through local radio stations. The concert tour surpassed Bowie's previous Serious Moonlight 1983 and Glass Spider 1987 tours, and their statistics by visiting 27 countries with 108 performances. That is a lot of performances.
Yeah, very busy career Bowie had. And in 1988, Michael Jackson went to number 1 on the US singles chart with The Way You Make Me Feel. It was the 3rd single from his 7th studio album, Bad, for which Jackson had written over 60 songs. He planned to release a 3-disc album, but producer Quincy Jones convinced Jackson to make Bad a 1-disc LP. That's interesting because we hear about musicians recording a lot of material for sessions for an album, and then they kind of have to whittle it down to what they want to commit to making the final version of, and it's like 1 LP. And I do understand maybe there's like a cost efficient aspect or product output type of thing where it's like maybe people are more willing to buy a 1-disc thing instead of a 3-disc. But with someone as big a name as Michael Jackson, I kind of wonder if it still would have been super successful if it were a 3-disc album.
Yeah, certainly. It's a very interesting decision made there. And I mean, even still today, artists write so many songs that never get to hear the light of day because of just cuts and making certain lengths for certain albums. So very interesting to hear that it's not a new phenomenon. In 1976, David Bowie released his 10th studio album, Station to Station, which was the vehicle for his last great character, the Thin White Duke. The album was recorded after he completed shooting Nicholas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth, and the cover artwork for his album featured a still from the movie. The album made the top 5 in both the UK and US charts. Again, more David Bowie news. He had a massive career, and his characters that he brought to life throughout his music are just very unique and a staple of David Bowie.
Yeah, I've seen that film maybe 15 years ago, and at the time I wasn't sure what to make of it, but maybe if I give it a rewatch, I wonder how different experience it would be. But Station to Station, I listened to a while back, and it's a really good album there. In 1971, George Harrison became the first solo Beatle to have a number 1 when My Sweet Lord went to the top of the UK single charts. The song from his album, All Things Must Pass, stayed at number 1 for 5 weeks. The track returned to the top of the UK charts in 2002 following his death. Yeah, George Harrison's solo career is very interesting because there's some really experimental stuff on there, and some of it might feel like really out there for some listeners. But yeah, it's cool the chances that he was able to take with his material.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's always interesting to see certain music spike on the charts after a passing like this. So interesting that, his music can still be relevant. Also in 1971, Steel Mill played their final show when they appeared at the Upstage Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Singer Bruce Springsteen formed new bands during the rest of that year under names like the Bruce Springsteen Jam, Dr. Zoom and the Sonic Boom, and finally the Bruce Springsteen Band. Interesting to go all the way back to that. He's still active, still doing music, so he's had a long career.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, in 1965, the song Downtown made Petula Clark the first UK female singer to have a number 1 on the US singles chart since Vera Lynn in 1952. The song was also a number 2 hit in the UK. Recorded in 3 takes, Session players in the studio recording included Jimmy Page, and ultimately the second take was chosen as a completed track. This makes me wonder, like, I might have to search this later, but it makes me wonder what's the average of number of takes that it takes for artists to use before deciding on the complete song. That'd be an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah, certainly that does sound very, very interesting and would be a good research project.
Yeah.
Let's see what's in the news at Drum Talk TV. Yeah.
All right, moving on to Drum Talk TV related news. Earlier this week, we had keyboardist Oliver Wakeman on for a fan Q&A session over on our membership site. If you missed it and want to watch it in the archives, go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com and sign up to be a premium member, or log in if you're already a premium member. Oliver has done some great solo projects, worked with the likes of Clive Nolan and Gordon Giltrap, and is, of course, the son of former Yes keyboardist Rick Wakeman, with whom he'll be touring as Wakeman and Son. And he's even worked with his dad's bands, Straubs and Yes. He even talked about how his son Arthur will be part of his band on the upcoming From a Page tour, and how his solo album, Mother's Ruin, is getting a 20th anniversary reissue in March. Definitely go check that out.
Yeah, that was a really fun conversation. Oliver is very generous with his time. He's a great musician as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. And we've been having a bunch of great artists for these fan Q&As, but it doesn't stop there, as Poison drummer Ricky Rocket joins us for one on Wednesday, January 28th, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern US times, 8 p.m. UK time. We will have more to say about Poison in the music news section a bit later. But in the meantime, check out his drumming in this video that's all about the Q&A. Poison drummer Ricky Rocket joins us for an online fan Q&A Wednesday, January 28th, 2026 at 12 p.m. noon Pacific US time, 3 p.m. Eastern US time, 8 p.m. UK time. How do you ask him a question online, on camera, face to face? Become a premium member at drumtalktvbrilliance.com. This is not for free members, so get the premium membership or get a gig pass from the site. Either way, you do not want to miss this. Only the opening interview will be public, but the rest will be exclusive. Read all the details in the description of this post or on the site. So go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com.
Also over on our membership website, drumtalktvbrilliance.com, we have 2 drumming challenges running through 11:59 p.m. Pacific on January 31st. Submit your entries to the Ringo Starr Tribute Drumming Challenge and the Frampton Comes Alive Drumming Challenge for a chance to win some cool prizes. Free members of the site can submit up to 2 videos per challenge, and premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Here's some more info about these challenges.
Ring in the new year with the Ringo Starr Tribute Drumming Challenge. Competition open until January 1st, 2026, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Win up to $125 worth of prizes by playing along to tracks featuring Ringo on drums. The Beatles, his solo albums, collaborations, many options. Win a gift certificate to a favorite music store, and a Drum Talk TV interview. All the info, rules, and judging criteria are on the site. Free members can submit up to 2 videos per challenge. Premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Frampton Comes Alive, the legendary live album, turns 50 this month. Celebrate with our drumming challenge competition open until January 1st, 2026, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Win up to $125 worth of prizes by playing along to tracks from the live album, which featured John Siomos on drums. Win a gift certificate to a favorite music store. Drum Talk TV interview. All the info, rules, and judging criteria are on the site. Free members can submit up to 2 videos per challenge. Premium members can submit as many as they'd like. Go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com. And earlier this week, we hosted our first game show of the season, the 2026 season, with debut albums trivia. Want to get in on the chance to win cool prizes? Join us on Tuesday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for our next game show, where the theme is B-sides of singles. And keep an eye out for all of our future events on our socials or at the events calendar over on drumtalktv.brilliance.com. And yesterday, Dan went live with Doctors Michelle Schechter and Eric Sandler for another episode of Drum Talk TV original series Plugged into Hearing Health. They had an interesting discussion touching on whether certain volumes can still be irritating to ears even if one already has trouble hearing. And always be sure to take good care of your ears, especially at those loud concerts and such.
Yes, definitely go check out that episode. And coming up right after this broadcast at 10 a.m. Pacific, Dan and Lou Calderola will talk about debut albums on another episode of Under the Influence. And Drumming Injury Talk with Dan and physical therapist Janice Ying will be happening next Friday, January 30th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So check out those broadcasts.
Definitely. And on Saturday, tomorrow, January 24th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK time, Dad and I will be hosting another episode of Yes Shift, interviewing Bob Seska, who did the art for Yes's Symphonic Live, which has just been reissued today on Blu-ray, and it's also on vinyl as well. It comes with new artwork and painstakingly updated artwork, so that'll be a fun conversation, talking with Bob about that process. So yeah, lots of stuff going on at Drum Talk TV and all those related series. But now we have to shift gears a little bit.
And now a moment to acknowledge those who have passed.
All right. Rob Hurst, founding drummer and songwriter for Midnight Oil, passed away on Tuesday, January 20th, after a nearly 3-year battle with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. USA Today reported that the band released a statement announcing his passing, saying, quote, "He died peacefully, surrounded by loved ones." Hurst opened up about his diagnosis during an interview last April, saying that he was receiving several treatments, and his oncologist noted that he was, quote, "pretty stable at the moment," unquote. Hurst formed the first incarnation of Midnight Oil in the early 1970s with Jim Mogany and Andrew Bear James, initially going by the band name Swampy Moose. They later changed their name to Farm before landing on Midnight Oil with a lineup of Hurst on drums, Mogany on guitar and keyboard, James on bass, Peter Garrett as lead singer, and Martin Rotzi on guitar. The group released 11 studio albums between 1978 and 2001, going on hiatus in 2002. Hurst reunited with the group in 2017 and released 2 more albums, with 2022's Resist peaking at number 1 on the Australian albums chart. Hurst was 70 years old.
Yeah, so quite a career there with all those albums, and yeah, definitely gone but not forgotten. And next we have Kenny Morris, the original drummer for British punk band Susie and the Banshees, passed away recently. Deadline reported that the news was announced by John Robb, longtime friend and music journalist, on January 15th, with no specific cause or date given. Morris was only briefly in the band from 1977 to 1979, but his playing style left a lasting impact on the Banshees and other new wave groups. Robb wrote in his tribute that Morris had been at the quote, had been at the heart and soul of the early punk scene, unquote. He played on the band's first 2 albums, The Scream and Join Hands, both of which sold well in the UK. After leaving the Banshees in 1979, he continued to drum, notably with Helen Terry, a backup singer for Culture Club. Morris was 68 years old. So, yeah, again, definitely gone but not forgotten. And we, of course, have the music to remember them by. But now we'll shift gears again and talk about some more music stuff.
Now let's see what's been going on this week in the music industry.
Okay, Pink Floyd marked a major new achievement this week with one of their most iconic 70s songs. Parade reported that their 1975 track, Wish You Were Here, officially surpassed 1 billion streams on Spotify, joining that somewhat prestigious Billions Club on the streaming platform. The band celebrated the accomplishment on their Instagram account on Wednesday, January 21st, while fans shared kind words about the song in the comments. This is Pink Floyd's second track in the last 12 months to join the club, as Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, surpassed the milestone in early 2025. That is a big accomplishment, one that, is becoming more frequent as streaming services are becoming more mainstream and everything. And it's really interesting that even these bands from so long ago are still being listened to and streamed digitally and all of those things, and joining this club that has artists from all ages and genres.
Yeah, like they have such a legacy, so 1 billion streams like that, I'm definitely not surprised. Rush announced this week an expanded reissue series of their 1984 release, Grace Under Pressure. According to the Prog Report, the Super Deluxe edition of the album will be available in 5 distinct configurations, including a 4 CD and Blu-ray edition, a 5 LP and Blu-ray edition, a digital edition, a Dolby Atmos digital edition, and Grace Under Pressure Tour live in Toronto 1984 on video. The 5 LP and Blu-ray edition features a 52-page hardcover book and is being sold for $375 US. Tell us in the comments about what you think about this reissue. I know there were some comments on a post about this where people were sort of going back and forth of like, do we really need to get another copy of this music we already have? And yeah, it's definitely going to depend, I think. Like, to me, the book sounds interesting. I kind of wonder, how well written is it? Is there any info that would be new to the fans? The video could also be interesting. But yeah, with all these box sets coming out, people really have to do a gut check with themselves and really decide, do I need this now? Or, so it's a decision music fans make.
Yes, certainly. And regardless of what you think about the cost and buying the box set, this is very exciting Rush news indeed. Also, alt-rock trio Sugar is reuniting for a full-fledged 2026 world tour. Loudwire reported that the trio, consisting of vocalist and guitarist Bob Mould, bassist David Barb, and drummer Malcolm Travis, are hitting the road after dipping their toes in reunion performances last year. They began teasing something new in October, followed by the release of their new single, House of Dead Memories, and the announcement of 2026 performances in New York and London. Mould said, quote, "I don't want to get out too far in front of the skis, as people say. People's reactions will probably guide a lot of the possibilities in front of us, whether it's more songs or more shows," unquote. New York and London performances quickly became the Love You Even Still 2026 World Tour, which will kick off in New York on May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They will then take their act to London for May 23rd and 24th before heading to other UK spots and beyond. The trio will return to the US on August 11th, kicking off the second half of their tour in Denver. Very exciting. Any Sugar fans out there should definitely look into where the closest concert would be to them.
Right. And we alluded to this earlier news about Poison. So Poison won't be touring to celebrate their 40th anniversary after all, as Entertainment Weekly reported that the band has officially shelved those plans due to a money dispute with lead singer Bret Michaels. Drummer Ricky Rocket said, quote, "We had a great offer, I thought, but we left the table. It didn't work," unquote. According to a report from Page 6, Michaels wanted to earn 600% more than each of his bandmates. While the tour was never officially announced, Fans have been anticipating dates since Michaels floated the idea in 2024, calling 2026, quote, the perfect, unquote, time to mark 40 years since their album Look What the Cat Dragged In. Rocket hinted in late 2025 that any plans for a tour had already imploded, saying that negotiations on an offer the band received paused after it was handed to Michaels, and Rocket said that at that stage, putting together a massive tour for this summer is, quote, super, super hard, unquote. So it's unfortunate that there was a money thing according to this, because I'm sure fans would have loved to see a reunion tour, but sometimes these things happen in the music business and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of disappointing news, but I guess never say never. Maybe there will be something else happen in the future. All right. Diane Warren broke her own record as Oscar's most nominated female songwriter. Parade reported that in 2024, Warren was cited by the Guinness Book of World Records as the record holder for most Oscar nominations for Best Original Song Female. Her current Oscar nomination is for the song Dear Me from the documentary Diane Warren Relentless. She has not won any Oscars despite the record-setting 17 nominations, but she did receive an honorary Academy Award in 2022 for her contributions to the songwriting industry. Warren has been nominated for tunes ranging from Rhythm of the Night from 1985's The Last Dragon to Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now from 1987's Mannequin to I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from 1998's Armageddon. Warren told Good Morning America that a potential win for her most recent nomination, quote, would be great, unquote. She shared that she wrote the song, quote, for the girl who was bullied and didn't have an easy time growing up. She added, quote, the interesting thing is that the song has become so universal to so many people because I think we all have that wounded child in all of us, unquote. This is huge news, kind of interesting that she's gotten 17 nominations and not won one yet. And, this would be a perfect opportunity for her to win because it is for her own documentary and film. So very interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see. We reported a couple weeks ago on Dolly Parton's teasing Instagram post indicating something new was on the horizon. On January 16th, Dolly took to social media to announce and release a new version of her 1977 hit, Light of a Clear Blue Morning, this time featuring Reba McEntire, Miley Cyrus, Lainey Wilson, and Queen Latifah. NBC reported that the song was re-recorded in honor of its 50th anniversary, since it was written and originally recorded in 1976. Net proceeds from the track and its accompanying music video will benefit the Pediatric Cancer Research Program at Monroe Carl Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee. This re-release also coincides with Dolly's 80th birthday, which was on January 19th. The song and music video are out and available to listen to everywhere. And that's great that they're donating the proceeds to that cancer research program, really using art to benefit, to help others in that way.
Yeah, certainly. Dolly definitely has a legacy of being very generous and doing good things with her art and music. So very exciting to hear this new re-release. And that's a big lineup of artists for this song. So very exciting. Also, we also reported a few weeks ago that British pop star Harry Styles seemingly teased something new when he shared a video from his most recent concert in Italy from 2023. Billboard reported that he announced on January 15th that his next album, Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally, will be released on March 6th, 2026. The album's lead track, Aperture, was released last night, January 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Shortly following this album announcement, Styles shared a run of 50 tour dates in support of this new project, which has been dubbed Together Together. The first show kicks off in Amsterdam, Netherlands on May 16th, where he will play 16 shows. He will head to London for 6 more shows before hitting Sao Paulo, Brazil, then Mexico City in July. Styles will begin a 30-night residency at Madison Square Garden in New York City in August before heading to Australia in November for the final leg of his tour. He will be joined by a variety of big names, including Robyn, Shania Twain, Jamie XX, Georgia Smith, and others. This is huge news. I have a lot of friends that are excited about this and that are really interested to see what this album is going to sound like. I've heard good things about his lead single that just dropped last night. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will. So very huge news. He's been like silent, dormant for the last 2 years, recovering from his last tour that took him everywhere for a long time. So very exciting that we're getting yet another Harry Styles album.
Yeah, for sure. And Kiss's legacy will live on in a new way soon. Parade reported that on January 21st, the Songwriters Hall of Fame announced that Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, who are credited as Kiss founders, will be inducted as part of the Hall's 2026 class. The Songwriters Hall of Fame recognizes and awards the craft and cultural impact of the songs themselves. It was established in 1969 and recognizes songwriters across genres, and a songwriter becomes eligible 20 years after the first commercial release of a song. The induction and awards gala is scheduled for Thursday, June 11th, 2026, at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York City and is not open to the public. Additional special award honorees will be announced later. Yeah, definitely curious to see who the other honorees are as well. You know, whenever stuff gets announced for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's always discussion among music fans of like, oh, should it have been this person? Or they'll be happy that like their people, their artists are like finally in the hall. So it's always fascinating to see.
Yes, certainly big news for Kiss and very exciting to see what happens next. John Densmore, drummer for rock band The Doors, will be teaming up with hip-hop star Chuck D from Public Enemy in a collaboration no one saw coming. Parade reported that the two artists revealed the news on Instagram on Wednesday, January 21st, announcing a new album coming this spring. The two musicians joined together under the name Dope, Doe standing for The Doors, and PE standing for Public Enemy. Their debut album is titled No Country for Old Men and is set to release on April 18th in accordance with Record Store Day, a national celebration recognizing independent record stores. One song on the album, Every Tick, 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 has already been named Record Store Day's 2026 Song of the Year. The duo has reportedly been in the works since 2015, following a Record Store Day panel in 2014. The Instagram post also teased something, saying, quote, "Stay tuned for more updates." Very interesting. Again, something that I don't think anyone saw coming. They seem like a unlikely pairing, but it will be exciting to see what they come up with this new album. I think it's also really unique that they are creating their own like name and then making an album and not just doing like a song together or a cover of a song together. So very unique and unexpected, but you know, I personally am very excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, and like you said, doing more than one song, like that's more of a commitment. So it shows that I think that shows that they enjoy working together. And I really like the creativity in that name where it's just a couple letters from those two things. I think that's really fun.
Here's a reminder of what's coming up soon on
definitely.
Drum Talk TV.
All right, so don't forget to submit your entries to our drumming challenges this month by 11:59 p.m. Pacific on January 31st. Play along to tracks featuring Ringo Starr or From Frampton Comes Alive for a chance to win prizes. Free members of DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com can submit 2 entries for each challenge, and premium members can submit as many as they like.
And don't forget to join us on January 28th for the Ricky Rocket fan Q&A. And then next week on Tuesday, February 3rd for our next game show at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Keep an eye on the calendar at DrumTalkTVBrilliance.com for updates and about that and all of our upcoming events. thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us for another weekly News Desk report. And we hope that you have a happy weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you soon, everyone.